Quiet in the chambers, please. Please take your seats. The meeting is about to begin. Remember to speak into the microphone, as this meeting is being recorded for public record. Please stand by. We are going on air in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Friday, March 7th Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting. I hope everybody's doing well and enjoyed this beautiful weather that we had in South Florida this morning. It was nice waking up to 50-degree weather. That's why we live in South Florida, so all is good. We've got two items on the agenda today. We do have a full board, but we have one member that is coming late. We're not sure what time that is. I do want to, though, take an opportunity to welcome a new member, Sarah Mermelli. Sarah, welcome so much to the Zoning Board of Adjustment. We look forward to your participation. Let's go ahead and formally take attendance. I'll go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Madden. Can you take attendance for the record, please?
Absolutely. Mr. Goldberg?
Here.
Mr. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Krennick?
Yep.
Ms. Mermelli?
Here.
Mr. Nagler?
Present.
Ms. Silverman?
Here.
And Mr. Silvers is currently absent, but we do expect him to come in later in the meeting.
Okay, so we do have a quorum. So if he comes in before the vote, we will include him in the vote because he did get the package and should have had an opportunity to review it in reference to the first item that we'll be calling up. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the City Attorney. Madam City Attorney, can you go ahead and give us any updates and swear in the public that's in the chambers, please?
Yes, sir. Good morning, everyone. Today's meeting of the Board of Adjustment has been scheduled in a hybrid format with a quorum of the board physically present in the Commission chambers at the Miami Beach City Hall, and applicants, staff, and members of the public appearing either in person or virtually via the Zoom platform webinar. In order to participate in today's meeting, those wishing to participate via the Zoom platform webinar may dial 888-853-5257, which is a toll-free number, and enter the webinar ID, which is 828-6961-5309, or log into the Zoom app and enter the webinar ID, which again is 828-6961-5309. Now, any individual wishing to speak on an item and they are on a Zoom must click the raise hand icon if they're using the Zoom app, or dial *9 if they're participating by phone. And before I swear in all those who intend to testify today, I'm going to read into the record the city's notice regarding lobbyist registration, so everyone's on notice. If you are appearing on behalf of a business, a corporation, or another person, you need to register as a lobbyist with the city clerk's office. If you haven't registered yet, you should register before you speak to the board. You do not have to register as a lobbyist in 3 limited circumstances. 1, if you're speaking only on behalf of yourself and not any other party. 2, if you're testifying as an expert witness in providing only scientific, technical, or other specialized information or testimony in this public hearing. Or 3, if you are appearing as a representative of a neighborhood association without any compensation or reimbursement for your appearance to express support of or opposition to any item. Expert witnesses and representatives of neighborhood associations shall, prior to appearing, disclose in writing to the city clerk their name, address, and the principal on whose behalf they are communicating. If you're an architect, attorney, or employee representing an applicant or an objector, you must register as a lobbyist. Now, those rules apply whether you're appearing in favor of or against the item, or whether you're encouraging or arguing against its passage, defeat, modification, or continuance. Now, I'm going to swear everyone who is present physically in the chambers, and if we will have anyone testifying on Zoom, they'll have to be sworn separately. Please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will be giving in this proceeding is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Right. Chair, you may proceed.
Okay, thank you, Madam City Attorney. Do we have any discussion items, Mr. Madden?
We do not.
Okay, in your package that was sent to you, you had the minutes from our January 8th meeting. As a reminder, we did not have a meeting in February. Hopefully you had an opportunity to review those minutes. I'll ask if there's no changes or corrections. I'll ask for a motion to approve those minutes.
Move to approve the minutes.
Okay, moved by Mr. Davis. Second?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Ms. Silverman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. We do have a request for a continuance. It's ZBA 24-0161, 605 Lincoln Road, Unit 800RF. Mr. Madden?
This is an appeal of a planning director's determination, and the appellants have requested that the item be continued to the May 2nd meeting. No reason was provided, but they're still working on the appeal, and they have some internal issues that they're working out.
Okay, I believe we do need a motion.
We do
for
need a
that.
motion
Okay,
in a
so
second.
we would entertain a motion to approve the continuance as described by Mr. Madden.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Davis, second. All right, Ms. Marmelli, your first motion, congratulations. Second by Ms. Marmelli, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes. Okay, moving on to our first of two applications. We have ZBA 24-0170, 4521 Pine Tree Drive. Mr. Medden?
All right, I'll ask Alejandro to read the title, please.
This application is requesting a variance to increase the maximum allowable height, to reduce the southern interior side setback, and to reduce the sum of the side setbacks in order to allow for the construction of a new two-story home.
Okay, so this is a proposed new home. It is in the RS2 zoning district. It has a lot that's 58,703 square feet, or 1.34 acres. It has a lot width of 150 feet, and it's a very long lot. It has a depth of 388 feet. They are proposing a home that has a unit size of 36.3%, so it's below the maximum unit size which is allowed, which is 50%. The plans were submitted. The home is called Villa del Mar. It's a waterfront lot on Pine Tree Drive. It fronts the Indian Creek Waterway. The proposed home is requesting 3 variances. The first variance is for an additional 2 feet in height. The city charter allows for the Board of Adjustment to approve up to 3 feet in additional height, so they're not requesting the maximum that could be approved by a variance. The reason for the variance is they're proposing an interesting architectural style that has two perpendicular essentially structures. The first floor is perpendicular to the street. The second floor is parallel to the street. Because of this, they need 2 slabs, the roof slab of the first floor and then a floor slab of the second floor. They're almost independent slabs, which creates additional need for height. So they're requesting the variance so that they can have appropriate floor-to-ceiling heights and allow this interesting architectural style. It allows the second floor to be set back significantly so it does not impact the street. To the south, there's a public park, so there's no impact to the property to the south. And to the north, there's a new home under construction, which is being built at a higher elevation, so they shouldn't have any issues. If they could propose to build a home that's higher, they are not taking advantage of the full freeboard provisions that we have. They're only using a freeboard of 2 feet. They could go up to 5 feet without penalizing their maximum height, so they are not building the highest home that they could build, even with this height variance. The second 2 variances are related. They're related to an accessory structure that's being proposed, and they are for the side interior setback and the sum of the side yard setbacks. They're only for this accessory structure. The main home complies with all of the setbacks. The accessory structure, if it were within the rear yard, it would comply with the setbacks perfectly, but the rear yard is only from 50 feet from the rear property line. So this accessory structure is going to encroach into what we call the main building area beyond the 50-foot setback. So it's subject to the setback requirements for the main home. It's a little tough to describe that. If it were within the water and the 50-foot setback line, it would be okay. But because they're going beyond that a little bit, they need a variance in order to build that structure where it's located. So the first variance is for the side interior setback. It would be required to have 15 feet. They're proposing that it follow the side interior setback that would be permitted for an accessory structure within the rear yard at 7.5 feet. This is adjacent to a public park, so it doesn't impact any neighbors, and so staff is not opposed to this. If the code did not have the limit that a rear yard had, only goes up to 50 feet, they would be able to build this structure without a problem. So that does present a practical difficulty to them. The second one is for the sum of the side yards. It's for that same accessory structure. Because they're so close to that property line, the sum of the side yards is not met, so they're requesting a variance to be allowed to build at some of the side yards at 32 feet as opposed to 37.5 feet that is required. And again, this is only for the accessory structure, which will have a guest house on the ground floor and an open terrace on the second floor. So with that, staff recommends approval of the application, subject to the conditions in the attached draft order, and I'll turn it over to the applicant.
Before we do that, are there any disclosures? Okay, no disclosures. Ms. Balter, are you going to be presenting?
Yes, sir.
Okay, 10 minutes good to start? Can we
hope-
set the clock for 10 minutes, please? It's all yours.
Thank you so much. And before we get started, I just wanted to say congratulations. We're so happy to have you here, Mr. Melli. Hopefully today will be a fun one with just some beautiful single-family homes. So good morning, Emily Balter, Bernardo Fernandez Larkin and Tapez, offices at 200 South Biscayne Boulevard. I'm here today on behalf of the owner of 5421 Pine Tree Drive. With me, we have our architect of record, Andres Holloman. We also have on Zoom our landscape architect, Carolina Montiero from CLAD. We have the owner's representatives, Camilo Pinzon and Alan Karen. And of course, with me, Michael Larkin. If we could pull up our presentation. Perfect, thank you. The property is located east of Pine Tree Drive. It abuts Pine Tree Park, and fronts the Collins Canal. The applicant's goal with this project is to construct a beautiful, modern, single-family home that's sensitive to Pine Tree Drive, as well as the park provides beautiful views of the canal. We're here today because the literal interpretation of the land development regulations would work an unnecessary and undue hardship on the applicant. Additionally, complying with the code strictly would lead to a less functional and less beautiful design. Starting with our site plan, we wanted to show you the judicious setbacks that are proposed, the parallel and perpendicular articulation that Rogelio mentioned, as well as we're not maxing out lot coverage or unit size with this house. We are seeking 3 variances. One relates to heights. The other 2 relate to the location of the accessory structure in the southeast corner of the property. We're seeking 2 feet of additional height and then reduced setbacks for the structure. Starting with the height, we wanted to provide you with a snippet of our variance diagrams rather than going through all of the elevations. Hopefully it makes it more clear so you can see how minimal this height really is and how much of these concrete slabs take up that 2 feet of height that we're seeking. These are, we believe, minor encroachments. We also wanted to point out how far set back this 2-story portion of the property is. This is the property line. This is where the 30-foot first floor setback is, and then here you can see where the 2-story portion actually begins. These are the side yard sections, just to further highlight the configuration of the first floor and second floor and the minimal encroachment into the height that we're seeking. We also wanted to note that on the main home, there's no rooftop projections proposed, so we're not seeking 2 feet plus an elevator bulkhead plus a parapet for a railing. There's no activity on the roof. The practical difficulties in this case relate specifically to the fact that this is a lot with multiple frontages that have to be considered when laying out the home, as well as the irregular shape of the lot. The rear, I'll show you. The rear setback is not a straight line. It's not a square lot. Additionally, the literal interpretation of the code that Rogelio mentioned, if you're permitted 28 feet of height plus 5 feet of freeboard, that would result in a home that's 33 feet in height as of right, and we wouldn't be seeking this request today. What we're proposing is a home that's 30 feet in height plus the 2 feet of freeboard, and it results in a home that is 32 feet in height, and that needs a variance. So it's that nuance in the code that results in us asking the variance, but it is important to the design, and that's why we came before you today. And then also the practical difficulty with the way that this is proposed to be constructed with the thicker concrete slabs results in a functional practical difficulty for the design of the home. Moving on to the accessory structure in the rear yard, as I noted, this is not a perfectly square perpendicular lot. Moving this accessory structure into the north setback would cram it. It makes more sense layout-wise, as you can see, to pull it into the south. There's also no south neighbor, so there's a minimal impact. Also, we wanted to note the structure is almost at the 7.5 feet, which would be permitted. What's encroaching is a staircase to go onto the roof terrace of the accessory structure, as I noted, because we're seeking the height variance for the main home in order to enjoy views of the canal. They're proposing the additional outdoor living space on the one-story accessory structure. This has a minimal impact. It's a very small area, 700 square feet, and it is pulled into the main building area rather than in the rear yard. So the rear yard does not have that roof terrace. It's a very minimal area within the main building site. And here, a section of the accessory structure where you can see the staircase is what's encroaching. We added the landscape plan to your presentation today in order to show how densely landscaped the project will be, and how thoughtfully landscaped the project will be, and the pointing to the accessory structure in the south side setback, we're proposing a dense crabwood hedge. This is smaller leaves close together, so that'll help minimize the impact of this, and it's the full depth of the setback. And then the other setbacks also have densely landscaped, but I wanted to point out the crabwood hedge for you all. The practical difficulty relates specifically to the accessory structure's location and the fact that it is a one-story with a rooftop. The code doesn't necessarily speak to accessory structures that they have regulations for accessory structures that are 2 stories and accessory structures that are 1 story, not necessarily a 1 story with a rooftop, which is what we're proposing. Also, if this entire accessory structure was crammed into the rear yard, it would be permitted without that rooftop. Just to note some additional justifications for our requests, this is a substantially oversized lot. Most lots in the RS2 meet the minimum requirement of 18,000. We believe that the additional lot area provides relief so that there's not as much impact on the abutting neighbors and Pine Tree Drive. Also, we've exceeded the minimum required setbacks for the main home. Our proposed front setback for the second level is proposed at 98 feet when 40 feet is required. And same with the other setbacks. We're exceeding side setbacks, we're exceeding the rear setback. We are also not maximizing the size of the home. Although this is an oversized lot and we could put a much larger house, we're below on lot coverage, below on unit size considerably. There's no rooftop access to the main home. We're seeking the 2 feet, and that's really it. There's no abutting south neighbor, and the location of the accessory structure keeps it open and preserves the water views. We also did extensive neighbor outreach. We reached out to the neighbors that would be most impacted by this project, and my colleague Robert passed out our letters of support for the neighbor to the north, the neighbor, and the neighbor across the street. And that concludes our presentation. We respectfully reserve time for rebuttal. If you have any questions, our team is here in person and on Zoom.
Great. Thank you so much for that presentation. I'm going to go ahead and open up the public comment. Mr. Mann, do you have anybody on Zoom?
I see no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, no one here in the chambers? Okay, with that being said, I'll go ahead and close the public comment, and I'll open up the questions from my board through the chair. Any questions? Okay. Mr. Nagler?
Is it possible to get a slide back up?
Of course.
The one about the freeboard, 32 versus 33 inches or whatever it was?
Of course. 20. Sorry if I did math out loud too fast. You could build as of right. I'll let you ask your question before I.
Are we trading off? Are we trading off 3 feet of freeboard here in order to accommodate this slab?
So we we could build to the max freeboard, but that would just result in a higher home. So that would be, and I'll let Andres do the difference, but we could do 30 plus 5 feet, and that would be a 35-foot home, and we would still be before you seeking a 2-foot variance.
But the side will raise considerably too, so it will look like the house is on stilts. So we feel that this compromise will give us a very nice looking house, that it doesn't exceed the maximum height that will be allowed.
Is there a minimum freeboard requirement?
The code requires 1 foot. However, the building department is currently enforcing 2 feet due to a new regulation, I believe, that's coming from FEMA.
And freeboard is to help mitigate flooding issues?
Correct. It's an allowance above the base flood elevation that's intended to mitigate against wave action. So if we ever had a storm surge, the base flood elevation is intended to address the storm surge. The freeboard is intended to address any waves that happen on top of the storm surge.
And this property is on the water?
It is on the Indian Creek waterway.
Okay.
I said Collins.
And then I was just wondering also about the accessory structure. Are 2 of the 3 variances related to that structure?
Correct,
And those are related to setbacks?
correct.
And which, are any of those setbacks from the water, the variances?
No, we comply with the rear setback
They're both in regard to
to the side,
The
south-
side.
the south side.
and if you pushed it further north, then do you run into issues with the south setback, the east setback, the rear setback, excuse me?
Well,
The setback from the
it is
water.
an angled rear,
Right,
so it would be, we would have to move it not only north, but
Right.
also west.
right, okay. So because of the angle, you would have an issue if you moved it further north?
Correct.
I would just add, in my opinion, I think there is a neighbor to the south, I think it's the park, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's used by the public, and that's a neighbor in a way? All right, thank you.
Good, thank you, Ms. Nagler. Other questions? I've got one. Can you put back up the slide that had the neighbors and the letters of support? I think you had a red star next to the letters of support. Yeah, oh, yellow, okay. So, question, the neighbor directly across, just to the south, across the street on the west side, yeah, you got a house, yeah, you got 2 houses there. Why is there not a letter of support from them? It would seem like they are the ones that really will be impacted too, because it'd be directly across the street from them. Were they approached, or why do we not have letters of support from them?
Yes, our owners' representatives went to both of those houses. If they were able to meet with them, they met with them and spoke with them. If they were not home at the time, they left them with letters. They also received mailed notice of this application. I think it's not a matter of lack of support. They received plenty of notice.
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, I'll point out too, I mean, there is, obviously you've got the big trees in between, so the direct impact is obviously to the north, and you've got the park on the south, but we always wonder, because typically
Yeah.
when we have something like this, they cover their bases and they get letters of support from everybody in the surrounding area, so there's no doubt. So to me, when you showed that slide, that's why it kind of raised a flag to me that, sometimes you can get them all, sometimes you can't, but they won't be impacted as much as the neighbor to the north. And that house is under construction. I did go to the property yesterday, so between the 2 houses, it's going to be nice. And it's a beautiful house, beautiful. It's going to be great. So I don't see any issues supporting. So, any other questions? Board's quiet.
Just to
Mr.
say,
Nagler?
can we split the vote, because I have split votes on the variances? Can we do variance by variance? instead of three?
I'm not sure procedurally, Mr. Madden, can we take them one at a time?
You can make a motion to approve variance 1, 2, 3, et cetera.
Yeah, I did want to point out, by the way, in your package, when Mr. Madden was discussing the variances, he didn't do them in order that's in your package, just so you know. So if we're going to do that, I have no problem with that. But, I'll go ahead and direct it, and I'll take them one at a time, 1, 2, 3 from your packages. So
Thank you
we'll
so much.
accommodate you and do that, Mr.
Thank you so
Nagler,
much.
okay? So last chance for questions. Okay, so with that being said, are there any, let's take variance, the number 1 variance in your package. Again, I'm not going to read the whole variance, it's there. This one is the
We can call it the height variance.
height
for-
variance, thank you, Mr. Madden. Any motions to? Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Davis on variance number 1. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, second from Mr. Krennic. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, we got one opposition, but that does pass. Let's go on to number 2. I guess we can call this the first of the accessory structure encroachment variance. Do I have any motions to move that and approve that?
I'll move it.
Nagler moves it. Second. Okay, second from Ms. Silverman. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. Let's go on to variance number 3. Again, accessory structure encroachment. Any motions to approve variance number 3?
Move to approve variance number 3.
Okay, moved by Mr. Davis. Second.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Nagler. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you so much. Appreciate you
you so
coming in.
much.
Congratulations. Thank you. Give me 1 second. My agenda just. Give me 1 second. Okay. Okay, the second and final new application is going to be ZBA 24-0171, 8-14 Star Island Drive. Mr. Madden?
All right, I'll ask Alejandro to read the title, please.
This application has been filed requesting variances to eliminate the lot aggregation requirements to combine the 4 contiguous lots, to reduce the sum of the side setbacks, to increase the allowable height, increase the height of allowable height encroachments for mechanical equipment, skylights, and chimney, increase the maximum permitted widths of the driveways, and to maintain the current maximum allowable yard elevations in order to allow for the construction of a new 2-story home.
Okay, so this is an aggregation of lots on Star Island. They're in the RS1 zoning district. The aggregation of lots results in 280,000 square feet, or 6.43 acres, and a lot width of 700 feet. The applicant is proposing a new home that has 2 accessory structures. The accessory structures are on the south side of the lot. The applicant is proposing 8 variances, and I'll go through them. And here I've given each variance because there are so many in name so that we can refer to them by a common name. So variance number 1 is for the elimination of the lot aggregation requirements in order to combine 4 continuous lots. The code allows you to aggregate a maximum of 3 lots. 2 of them you can develop on, and 1 has to remain open, or the equivalent of 1 has to remain as open space per the code requirements. The applicant is proposing a variance of that section to allow them to aggregate 4 lots. This is consistent with the character of Star Island. Star Island is known for large estate lots, and there is an aggregation to the north of this site that is an aggregation of even more lots than this. So it is compatible with the context, and this limit does present a practical difficulty for the applicant, given that Star Island is known for particularly large lots. The second variance is known as the sum of the sides variances. This is related to, again, accessory structures, similar to the last variance. The main home, if in it of itself, would comply with the sum of the side yard setbacks, but if you add in the accessory structures, which are on the south of the property, that causes them to not comply with the sum of the side yard setbacks. The next variance is a height variance. The applicant is requesting an additional 3 feet in height for the main structure. Again, similar to the last application, they are only using a freeboard of 2, and so they are requesting the additional height in order to accommodate appropriate floor-to-ceiling heights and accommodate the significant mechanical and roof equipment and insulation that they're required to provide. Given the scale of the home, there are significant needs for mechanical equipment on the rooftop and other equipment on the rooftop that does present a hardship to the applicant. That height limit does present a hardship to the applicant. They are still not taking advantage of the full 3 feet of freeboard, so essentially the height of the home is what you could build as of right for a single-family home. The next variance is height exception variance number 1. This is for mechanical equipment ranging from 7 to 8 feet above the point at which they emerge from the roof, where the code permits you to have 5 feet. Again, similar to what I just described, they have significant mechanical equipment that needs more height than what you would have on a typical home. The next variance is height exception variance number 2. This is for skylights. Because of the mechanical equipment and the screening required for the mechanical equipment, the skylights need to be a little bit higher so that they don't have views of the mechanical equipment. So that's why they're requesting a variance to allow those skylights to be up to 7 feet in height as opposed to the 5 feet, which the code provides for. Variance, the 6th variance, we call it height exception variance number 3, is for the chimney. The code provides a limit of 5 feet for a height exception for a chimney. They're requesting 8 feet. That is so that the chimney can go above the level of the screening of the roof. So staff is supportive of that variance. The next variance, variance number 7, we're going to call it the driveway variance. It's to allow for a driveway with a width of 25 feet, where the code has a maximum allowance of 18 feet. This is a practical difficulty given the scale of the home. The architectural style does merit having larger driveways as the main entrance. The property overall has 4 driveways. The 2 driveways on the edge, on the north and the south edge of the property, do comply with that 18-foot limit. The lot as a whole does not exceed the allowance for driveways. It complies with all the other requirements that we have for driveways, so this is just to allow them to be a little bit wider through the front setback area. The last variance is the minimum yard elevation variance. This is a preemptive variance. We were discussing the base flood elevation. FEMA is expected to actually lower the base flood elevation on several of the islands in Biscayne Bay. They're expected to raise it throughout most of the main part of Miami Beach, but on the islands of Biscayne Bay, for whatever reason, FEMA is expecting to lower it. I guess in their modeling, the storm surges are not impacting those islands as much as they had previously forecasted. So if FEMA lowers the base flood elevation, that would lower the maximum yard elevation that they would be allowed to build at. And that would present a hardship to them if they had to lower their maximum elevation based on that code requirement. So this is a preemptive variance in the event that FEMA lowers the base flood elevation for this property, that they would be allowed to keep their yard at the same elevation that you can build at today. So it's a interesting variance. It's an interesting issue that we're going to face on some of these barrier islands. I'm not sure why FEMA is doing this. I'm sure their modeling has shown something that we're not aware of, but that's what we expect with our draft maps. So those are the variances. Staff is supportive of the variances. The applicant's going to be providing a very good presentation that you'll see more detail as to what I'm talking about. And staff recommends that the variances be approved, subject to the conditions in the draft order.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Madden. Are there any disclosures on the dais? Okay. Normally, we set a 10-minute time limit with the number of variances and the extent of this project. I'm willing as chair to stretch that out. If it works for you, Mr. Amster, Mr. Larkin, 15 minutes to start, and if you need more, we'll take from that.
Yes, sir.
Will that be good?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you, gentlemen, or Mr. Larkin.
First.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board member, staff. Michael Larkin, 200 South Biscayne Boulevard, here representing the applicant, which, as you all may have heard, is Ken Griffin. I'm joined by Kason Carter from Ken Griffin's team. We also have an amazing design team for your consideration today. We have Joseph Duran of Joseph Duran Architecture, our local architect who I've worked with over 20 years, Jennifer Macani Gayoso from Studio MCG, and Craig Greenberg of Craig Greenberg Architecture. Our landscape architecture team is equally as fantastic. We have Wirtz International Landscape Architects from Belgium and our own local landscape architect, Chris Cowley. My partner, Matt Amster, and colleague Rob Alvarez are assisting me today, and we have another member of the team, the model, plus the virtual reality goggles that are for your consideration and use throughout the presentation when you would like to have a VR look at this. I think it's wonderful that Ken Griffin has chosen Miami Beach as his home. This is his forever home. This is his family home, and he's so excited to be here. He's committed to this community, but he could not be here today. But Kason Carter is here to offer a few brief remarks about Ken, his past, and where he wants to go in the future. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Kaysen and have him go through some slides.
And if you could, please pull up the presentation. And also, Kaysen arrived a little late. We need to have him sworn in.
Okay. Madam City Attorney?
All right. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you will be giving in this proceeding is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you. And thank you for your time. I'm a former city councilor. My wife has served on a planning commission, so appreciate your service and your time. I'm here on behalf of Ken Griffin today. He's a native Floridian. He was born in Daytona Beach. He spent his formative years in Boca Raton and attended public high school there. He relocated to Miami in 2022, and he is very proud to be a part of this community, and he's deeply committed to the community. He's the founder and CEO of Citadel, which is one of the more successful hedge funds in the world, and also the founder and non-executive chairman of Citadel Securities, a global market maker and one of the world's largest liquidity providers. He's also a passionate philanthropist. Even to date, he's given over $2 billion to causes including education, driving opportunity for others, science and medicine, and a deep commitment to the communities that he cares about, including specifically this region of South Florida. We're currently building headquarters for Citadel and Citadel Securities in Brickell, which will be an over $1 billion building, including a hotel and lots of amenities for the local community. In Florida, he jumped right in terms of his commitment to community. He's funded initiatives such as the Sylvester Comprehensive Cancer Center, a neuroscience institute at Baptist Health, a surgical tower at Nicholas Children's, and many education initiatives as well, including a scholarship fund at Miami-Dade College for over 8,000 students. And he's been very active in Miami schools and will continue to be in public schools and charter schools and in private schools. He believes that each child should have an access to a high quality education, and that will be a big focus of his for years to come. He'll also support cultural institutions around the community and other community initiatives such as the Underline, the Perez Art Museum, the Frost Museum, and regional tech initiatives for economic development. So needless to say, he's quite committed to the region. He's very proud to be here. And this, again, is an application for his personal family home. So I'll let the discussion center on that. Thank you.
Again, Matt Amster, also with the firm of Burke, Howard, Dell, Fernandez, Larkin, and Tapanez, offices at 200 South Biscayne Boulevard in Miami. I think everyone's aware, but here's, Star Island. It is a very unique place. It has very large single-family home lots in a sort of an enclave all to itself. The zoning, is basically entirely this RS1 for these larger single-family homes. This zoning is actually quite unique in the city. It's only located in 3 places, obviously Star Island being one. The eastern half of Palm Island, which is up at the top left, and then on the right you can see that there's a small area on Pine Tree Drive. Interestingly enough, right in the location where the application before us was heard, that is in RS2, but these are very small, segregated, unique areas. This is the place where homes can be distinctive and have innovative designs. Here's now the property itself, looking from the water, same view you have of the model. We have an assemblage of 4 parcels that are, you can see the separation here on this diagram. There's a historic development pattern where there were multiple lots that were developed for many, many years, and so that pattern is mimicked in our assemblage, and that's where we have 4 lots. I'm going to call up Craig Greenberg now to walk you through the design.
Thank you. Thank you all. My name is Craig Greenberg. My office is located in New York City at 210 11th Avenue. Although I have lived in New York for more than 30 years, I was raised in Miami, and I'm a graduate of Ransom Everglades and then Cornell. I'm Ken's personal architect for his and his mom's residences, for Ken here on Star Island and for his mom in Palm Beach. It's been alluded to, we've assembled an amazing team of designers and engineers for this project. Starting with Joseph Duran of Paris, he's our architect and designer, and he's designed amazing homes throughout the world, including in South Florida, including Surf Club Four Seasons. Ken asked me to focus the team on the design and engineering of this project with the guiding principle that this is his home. This is his forever home. So here's a visual of the overall house. And I'm gonna start by focusing on the roof, which I think Michael mentioned at the beginning, or Rogelio did relative to the variances. The dictate from Ken was that this was to be a completely integrated home, no surface left behind, including the roof, which we called the fifth facade. So because of all the mechanical equipment that was needed, and the constraints of the site, we engineered the roof to hold all that equipment and skylights, but to be invisible to anybody either from below or above, which we thought was very important and pretty cool. So Jennifer will get more into the details of the roof and how that happens, but that was a big impetus for the design. And also part of that and part of the integration of the horizontal and the height of the building was that we're not bringing, we could, but we're not bringing elevators to the roof, nor are we designing or contemplating any rooftop terraces. So that keeps everything at the same level. Next. This is the main entrance of the house. You'll see the underside of that roof edge and the balcony edge have a very soft form. And as we go through the design of the house, you'll see how that wraps around the house and ties the whole thing together horizontally and completely conceals what's going on above from all views. We wanted the landscape design to be integral with the architectural design, and hopefully you'll see that in the presentation. A quick note on the materiality, because one of the items I want to raise is how much engineering went into this design work before we got here, which we're very excited to be here finally. But we are working with engineers to use a material called UHPC, Ultra High Strength Performance Concrete, which would be used to make all these curved shapes come in 8 to 10 foot sections, assembled on site, tied together, seamed in place, and then monolithic, no joints, no seams, which is something that all architects sort of dream of, and we think we have a way to achieve that. Next. Process. So this is an unprecedented process, I could safely say, that we went through in the design of this, and that's why the team mentioned the VR goggles. So we printed out the house during the design 3 times at full scale, 1-to-1, and placed it in these air hangars outside of London. And so you could walk the floor plan, but not only walk the floor plan, but we commissioned VR to go with the floor plan. So as you walk, you see the house, you look around, and that was instrumental both for Joseph, you see on the left, and Ken on the lower right, who put a lot of time into saying, yes, this works, it doesn't work, it meets the criteria you gave us, and it's never been done at this scale, and certainly not 3 times. Yeah, you could go to the next. Site plan, another important concept of the house was building in a park. We did not want to crowd this house in any way. We wanted it to breathe. The setbacks are no less than 70 feet at any point, and in most cases more, over 125 feet. You'll see that in the video that we show at the end of the presentation and some of the renderings. but space for the house to breathe, both from the inside and from the outside, was very important for Ken and for the design team. Those big setbacks and the landscape design allowed the impact from the street to be very minimal. These are views of the front entrance. The house is very far set back. The landscape will be extensive. So it's all about glimpses that you get to the house, and so that it looks like a house. There's a family side and a more public side. This is the family side. You see the continuity of the roofs there, and that UHPC material that I was talking about, and the tie-in, and no possibility of seeing any mechanical, both because of the sight lines and because of the shroud on top of the roof. The water side, similarly, or here more strongly, the continuity of the roof and the balconies. You'll see in the video also the rhythm of the balconies on the first floor, purposeful to add a rhythm to the length of the facade and to give it scale. And we think that it works really well and softens the architecture. And then a view looking to the south across the main pool. And a view looking from the 70-foot setback to the north end of the house. You can see how we're at 70 feet right here, so the house still has a far way to go before you see it. And the same idea about the roof. You don't see anything from anywhere above the roof. And the family entrance. Materials, I talked about UHPC. So it comes in sections, it gets seamed, it gets adjusted and seamed in place, and then monolith coating in a very soft plaster finish. All the vertical surfaces are travertine, or will be travertine. There's samples over there for you to have a look at. I should talk about the glass a little bit. For Ken's mom's house in Palm Beach, we worked with a German company called Seele. They own a glass company called CDEC. They do all the Apple glass. Every window is individually tested. The windows move. It's just an amazing engineering process. The mullions are amazingly thin. You know, in Miami you generally see, or anywhere in the South Florida, you see very wide mullions. These are thin, solid steel, and quiet and fast. And then the shroud material, and we have samples of that to look at also.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Now I'm going to have Jennifer join us.
Good morning. My name is Jennifer McConney with Studio MCG Architecture, offices at 230 Northeast 97th Street in Miami Shores. We've provided several design components of the project that meet and beat what's required by code in terms of resiliency and sustainability. We've provided 4 50,000-gallon cisterns that are buried below grade that capture a total of 200,000 gallons of rainwater from the land and the roof for irrigation. We currently have permits for a 700-foot linear seawall that we're raising from 5 feet NGVD to 7.5 NGVD. Also, the mechanical systems are raised up to the roof to protect the residents from floodwaters. Next slide. We've also provided 129,000 square feet of pervious green space on the land, which means almost half of the site is pervious. The land has also been raised 5 feet throughout the property, which allows for more rainwater storage and protects the residents from potential floodwaters. Also, all of the mechanical equipment...
Put another 10 minutes, please.
Yeah. Also, all the mechanical equipment in the project will be commissioned. What that means is an engineer will ensure that all the systems and components are installed, tested, operated, and maintained in the most efficient manner, which will therefore reduce energy consumption. And I'm going to turn it over to Matt to discuss the variances.
Thank you, Jennifer. So I know Rogelio did a great job of explaining our variances. I'll add to that in as quick a fashion as possible. We have a 4-parcel development. To achieve that, it's important to note that the code has a preference for no more than 3. However, there is an intent behind that code. It's to make sure that the building itself is centrally located and it does not impose on the neighbors and allows for privacy. And we have generous setbacks all around, not just to the north and south where we have our closest neighbors, but even at the front and the rear. This is also, Star Island has the largest lots to begin with. Many of the developments are also either double or multiple lots. And in fact, the Frost residence to the north of us is of a similar size. To look at this differently, at the top is just a possible alternative. We could develop these 4 parcels separately, each at the maximum 50% unit size. You can see that there's a lot more massing, especially to the neighbors, at the south and at the north. Whereas our proposal down here, this is that 70-foot setback where no structure is impeding the privacy for the neighbors, and you have a same 70-foot setback in the north. And in fact, those 2 accessory structures in the north also further break up, the impact of this home on this assemblage. And part of that feeds into our next variance about the sum of the sides. The 70 feet that we keep talking about, which is the purple on the both south and north sides, is the minimum required side setbacks, and so we meet that completely. The code, though, also requires a bit more, 5% more for what's called the sum of the sides. That was a roll in a minimum fashion on the prior application for that accessory structure. So here, though, providing that extra 5% is the area shown in red at the north side. That would mean that we have to have a setback of 105 feet. It's notable that a single lot on Star Island is 100 feet, so that would be a setback to not develop on an entire lot. And for comparison purposes, again, that alternative, which we're not doing, if you were to develop the 4 lots separately, you could develop a 20,000 square foot home that is either 10 or maybe 15 feet from your property owner to the north. And we have 70 feet of open space between. And Jennifer, why don't you continue?
Okay. As Craig has described, the residence has a unique design where the roof or fifth facade has been carefully designed and studied to conceal all of the rooftop equipment while minimizing the height with its sloped silhouettes. The code allows a residence in a single-family district a height of 28 feet to the top of the structural roof slab. The code also allows up to 5 additional feet for the mechanical equipment and 10 additional feet for the screening of that equipment. We are requesting 3 additional feet for the overall height of the residence due to the amount of mechanical ductwork that will be located in the ceilings. Furthermore, if we had placed the ground floor of the residence at the maximum design flood elevation, which is 15 feet NGVD instead of 12 NGVD, and used the 28-foot height limit allowed by code, we would be at the exact height that we are currently proposing in this variance, similar to what you had seen in the previous submission. You can also see in the image at the bottom that because the roof silhouette is sloped and we have provided extensive setbacks, the house has minimal impact from the street and the neighbors. Next slide. The image on the top left is a section through our project, and the image on the right is a corresponding section of the project from 4 to 6 Star Island that was presented to the design review board last year. You can see in these images that 4 to 6 Star is raised over the minimum design flood elevation, which is 17 NGVD, and that residence also has an active rooftop and an elevator and stair that access that rooftop. Our project is not proposing any active rooftops and therefore no vertical bulkheads above the roof for access. We will simply have rooftop hatches within the mechanical areas, again minimizing the height impacts to the neighbors. And we have also placed our building lower on the site at 12 NGVD. The roof is our 5th facade in the crown of the home. The image shows the house with and without the shroud. Due to the high visibility of the roof, because of drone footage, cruise traffic at Government Cut, and the high visibility of the Miami Beach skyline, the roof and its equipment have to be screened with the same detailed beauty as the rest of the home. Next. We are also requesting a variance of 3 feet in height for the mechanical equipment. All of the large windows in the residence have been designed to open up to the elements to create an indoor-outdoor experience. We have large custom-designed operable exterior window walls that not only open sideways, but on the second floor, 2 of the large windows actually move up into the roof with a hydraulic mechanical system. To allow for this, the engineering and the equipment are very sophisticated, and with this sophistication comes larger equipment. The code is inflexible on the height, but due to the creativity and carefully designed roof silhouette and locating all of the equipment below the shroud, the impact of the house's height is minimal and the equipment is completely screened, which is the intent of the code. Next. In the code, a decorative screen is allowed to be up to 10 feet in height, but our proposed decorative screen is only 8 feet. The top photo shows how the silhouette of the roof screens the mechanical equipment and meets the intent of the code. The intent is for the roof not to look like a third floor and at the same time hide the mechanical equipment. And as you can see from this rendering on the top, this is clearly a 2-story residence and no mechanical equipment can be seen. The bottom photo is a typical residence in Miami Beach where the screening has become part of the cladding design, but unfortunately the equipment peaks above the screening. In our design, the engineering has been thoroughly studied and the current height of the shroud will conceal the equipment. We have one fireplace in the residence, which is located in the center of the home. Due to the building code, the chimney of the fireplace is required to terminate 3 feet above any surrounding structures. So what we have done is pull back the shroud in that area so the chimney can terminate at the same height of the shroud, and therefore cannot be seen from the street or surrounding properties. But we do need to ask for a 3-foot variance for this chimney so it can terminate 3 feet above any surrounding equipment. The code allows for it to terminate 5 feet above the roof, and we need 8. The footprint of the chimney is that small red dot that Matt's pointing out right now in the center of the roof plan, so the impact is really minimal for that variance. On the skylights, the residence has 12 proposed skylights integrated into the design of the roof. 3 of those skylights are above the staircases along the east side of the home, and because they are above the staircases, the views through these skylights are impacted by the adjacent mechanical equipment. We are asking for 3 additional feet for these 3 skylights, highlighted in red, so when one travels up the staircase, they are not able to see the equipment through the skylights. Again, these skylights are completely below the roof shroud, so they cannot be seen from the neighbors or the street, and their design has been fully integrated into the 5th facade. And I'll hand it over to Matt to discuss the last 2 variances.
So this, again, we have 4 parcels, which at least minimally would have 1 driveway each. So we are only proposing 4 driveways. The 2 on the north ends are compliant in width, and the 2 at the center, again, these are our main entrances, both for the family and for guests. And the width helps to identify them, to provide a sense of arrival, as well as can accommodate large vehicles should that be needed. And then our final variance, I think Rogelio did a good job of explaining how FEMA is proposing to reduce the base flood elevation, which is a measure of how high your required yards, everything in the front, the rear, and the sides within the required setback areas, would have to be reduced should FEMA's proposed plan be adopted. The differential is about 2.5 feet. That is significant both in transitions to the house itself, the rest of the yards that are next to all of this, as well as to our own stormwater retention. You know, raising up the ground level is actually a part of the stormwater design for this project. So this is a prospective variance that, should that be adopted, we want to maintain the maximum of 10 feet that the code allows for today. We've done extensive neighbor outreach. It's a very important to Ken. He's going to be a member of this community with his family living here. And so we've reached out to more than just the people listed on here. But we are happy to report that we have 9 letters of support. You had a packet handed out to you which has all of those individual letters. But very notably, We have our neighbors to the south and to the north, and we even did, even though there's a quite wide median linear park in the middle of the island, we did also go to the east side. All told, it's roughly about half of the island is support of our request. And again, we haven't heard of any objection at all. Right now, I want to.
5 minutes. 5 minutes enough to wrap up?
Yeah, what we have, we're almost done. We do have 2 videos that were mentioned by Craig that I want to.
Okay, you want 5 or 10, Mr. Amster, to wrap up?
10 would be
10?
more than we need.
Okay, let's do 10.
We can
Give
avoid
you more
the-
than enough
the
time.
buzzer.
Let's do 10 minutes again, please. It's an important project, so I'm happy to grant the request.
Yeah.
So through the 3D modeling and through the design, we developed this 3D modeling, which is very accurate basis of the VR. But here you have the approach from the water. You see the roofs that I was talking about and the rhythm of the house as it goes north to south. So it's not flat at all. The curves tie everything together. The composition that Joseph came up with, we think is just, very beautiful. The pool at the end, a dining pavilion at the end. But again, very far from the neighbor. That's the view down. Green roofs. Every roof that has landscape is planted roof, I should say. That was the position we were looking at before of the private pool. Our magic shroud roof, which I think succeeds as a 5th facade. The street views, which I gave you some stills of.
One second while I
Yep.
go to the other one.
And then into and up to the front door. This is the main entrance to the house. Come into a double height space. These windows disappear into the walls. Just a taste of the interior architecture. Carved stone stair, the skylights that Jennifer was talking about. You'll see how those skylights come out of the roof in those circles. We're proud of the roof, you can tell from the rendering. And the house is at 12, as Jennifer and Matt said, and slopes down to 10, the new seawall. One more.
Now I'm going to go back to
Okay.
our presentation just to make some concluding. Let's see. There we go. Perfect. Thank you. So, thank you for having us here today for what I know is a little longer than usual, but this is a project that, as Craig had mentioned, has been years in the making. Very thoroughly designed. We spent many hours going through the code and doing our best with this design proposal to make sure that we didn't have to come here. This is a project, though, that has a lot of creative and innovative design, and where essentially much of this comes out and is here before you is our way of utilizing that innovative design on an area of the city that allows for such expansive and innovative homes to still meet the intent of the code. Basically, our practical difficulty for much of this comes into play that the code is guiding designers to design in a certain way. For example, all the mechanical equipment. The code encourages you not to have it on the ground level in the side yards, being an impact and imposing to your neighbors, putting it on the roof instead. Well, why would you put it on the roof? In addition to that, you would want to make sure that it's screened. Well, the screening, as you saw in one example from another home, can actually be this jutting and very visible aspect. So here, although it needs a little more height to allow for it, we have a very sleek and hidden, rooftop, including that it's not active at all. So that actually has been worked in. It is also one of the more fully designed homes from a not just mechanical but structural standpoint to allow for all of this to be built. It's been a great undertaking, and while again we are here, we do feel that we meet all those practical difficulties. We agree with staff's conditions, and we are all here to answer any questions. We respectfully request approval of our variance requests, and I would like to just end with an invitation to come down to take a closer look at the model. And we do have the actual, program. You can virtually see the home if you want to put on the goggles. We don't need to walk around. You basically stand in a little circle. But if indulging your
So we appreciate, and I appreciate that great presentation. I'll ask the board if you feel it's relevant that you'd like to get off the dais and go look at the model and use the 3D glasses. I'm fine with that. I would go ahead and I would take a short break. That doesn't need to be on video on the record unless I'm wrong, Madam City Attorney. If I wanted to go ahead and take a break and allow the board to step off the dais and take advantage of what's being offered by the
Yes.
applicant, I can do that?
Yes, it is appropriate.
That doesn't need to be? Okay, would you guys like to take a 10-minute break and walk down and? Okay, all right, so with that, we're gonna go ahead and take about a 10-minute break. Those watching in the public, I hope you understand it's a very important project for the city of Miami Beach and Mr. Griffin, and we'll take a 10-minute break and we'll be back to you soon. Thank you.
Come on down. tall ones coming down to this.
Yeah.
Not yet. Yeah, I'm kind of, plus I don't know.
Yeah.
I always hate like saying, hey, I had a really good meeting.
Right,
and it's
exactly.
like,
And the black guy especially, it seemed very like, could be your best friend. Or could be like,
Because your daughter was
but,
right?
yeah.
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 That's amazing. Oh, nice. Nice. Yeah, Ken's on the World Cup host committee.
Yeah, I think he's
Yeah.
doing music.
Uh-oh. Hey.
Actually, no.
On your existing house? Jim Silver's, Craig Greenberg. Jim and I go way back. We used to live on the board together in Bell Harbor. Oh, yeah. And I was a very good friend. Yeah. So 40 foot over from, well, you know, we were out like down the street from there. Maybe in Lansing. Hey, Jim.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and start. Public, I appreciate your patience. I just thought it was extremely important with this project that we get a close-up view and make sure we make the right decisions. So we appreciate your patience in allowing us to do that. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and open it up first to public comment. Do we have anybody on Zoom, Mr. Metten?
Anybody on Zoom, if you'd like to speak, raise your hand. I don't see any hands raised. Nope.
Okay, anyone in the chambers for questions? Public comment? Yes, could you please come up to the podium, state your name, please?
Jerry Rowland. I'm here representing the Miller family. They are the neighbor to the south. They have been in residence of Star Island for over 45 years. Ken's team was so gracious to present to us at the Miller's home, and they are very supportive of the project.
Thank you so much for coming in. We appreciate your time. Thank you. Any other additional public comment? With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment. I'm going to open it up to our board for questions through the chair. I'll recognize anyone that has questions, and I'm sure we have a few. Ms. Silverman? Turn your mic up. The one on the right. There you go.
I have no context as to why a driveway would be maximum of 18 feet. I just need some context to why it's written that way in the zone.
On your standard lot, that's probably an appropriate number. But what we're trying to limit is a few things. First, vehicular conflict. So typically you have sidewalks, so you want to have driveways be as narrow as possible to minimize conflicts with pedestrians and the sidewalks. And so we also have a minimum spacing requirement between driveways in order to improve pedestrian safety. Minimize paved areas. We want to minimize paved areas as much as possible to have as much open space as we possibly can. So those are the two primary things that we're trying to achieve there with those requirements. But in this case, we have the home has a significant amount of open space.
Thank you.
You good? Okay. Questions from the board? Presentation, was that good? Or are we still in awe? Mr. Nagler, I know I can always count on you, Mr. Nagler. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a few. Is a preemptive variance a thing? Does that exist?
I can't say that I've seen one before, but there's nothing in the code that prohibits you from doing that.
So a preemptive variance, so you've never seen one before, so we'd be like making it up. This would be like a new thing.
It would essentially be a new precedent, yeah.
And a preemptive variance would be a variance from something that doesn't currently exist.
Yes, so it's something that, this is a regulation that's based on a regulation created by another agency. It's a regulation outside of the city of Miami Beach's control. So it's not something, so we wouldn't do it for our own regulations. Our own regulations are in our hands. Our city commission votes on them. This is something the city commission does not approve, does not vote on. It's set by FEMA. So that's the reason why we felt it was justifiable. They have released the draft maps, and they are expected to take effect this year. They have said that they will take effect this year. So we know it's coming, but it hasn't taken effect yet. So it didn't seem to us to make sense to make the applicant come back in the event that FEMA changes that number later this year.
So if it was built without the preemptive variance, it would be, on that particular issue, it would be to code, on that, currently.
Currently, yes, they are at code right now.
And if they built it to code now without the preemptive variance, and then the change happened, would they have to come back, or is that legal non-conforming at that point?
If it changes before they have their full building permit, they would have to come back.
And they could ask for variance and we could give it to them?
Correct.
Okay. So I do have two other questions. All right. So
Go
I'll
ahead,
just keep
you got
going.
the floor, Mr. Nagler.
All right. This is 4 parcels put together, is that correct?
Correct.
And the 4 put together, what do we call that? The lot? What would be the term for the 4 together? What do I call that?
The assemblage, or in the code,
Aggregation.
there's lot aggregation.
The lot aggregation. This is, there's a house on it now, but that'll be taken down, right?
Correct.
And once that's taken down, this is the lot aggregation. The lands will be a blank canvas, is that correct, in essence?
Yes.
Okay. And is there anything about the lot aggregation that makes it an irregular lot? Irregular.
I would say the shape of it is fairly regular. What is irregular is the size. We generally do not see lots of this scale.
Okay, the shape is regular.
The shape is regular.
Okay, so then I would just say that I think there's, given that it's a regular lot, blank canvas, from what I can tell from the presentation, Mr. Griffin has assembled an impressive team of attorneys and architects and everyone else, very skilled, impressive people in their professions. And I trust that with a blank canvas, this can be built without the need for going outside the codes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nagler. Any other questions from the board? Okay, so if we have no other questions, I think on this one, I'm going to follow the lead that we had on the first one, because there are 8 variances and they're all very different. I think we should take them up one at a time. So if you all agree with that, I don't think we need a vote. I think it's my prerogative that I can do that without a vote. So let's go ahead and make sure you have them in front of you, please. And I'm just going to recite them, as you have them on your package. And they were named by Mr. Madden, so I will take variance number 1, called the lot aggregation variance, and see if there's any motions to approve variance 1.
Move to approve variance 1, the lot aggregation variance.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Approved by Mr. Davis. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Well, I did see. Okay, I did see Jim raising his hand, so we'll give you that one. Mr. Silvers, second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, great. That's 1. Let's go to variance number 2, which is the sum.
Was the vote on that one unanimous? I apologize. No, you voted no? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Were you no, Mr. Nagler? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't catch up. Thank you. Thank you for catching that, Mr. Madden. Okay. It does still pass. Variance number 2, called the sum of sides variance. Are there any motions on the floor?
Motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Mr. Krennic. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. I had a senior. Second by Steve. Second by Mr. Davis. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, one opposition. Variance number 2 passes. Variance number 3, called the height variance. Any motions to approve variance number 3?
Move to approve.
Okay, moved by Mr. Davis. Do I hear a second? Okay, second by Ms. Silverman. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we have 1 nay. That variance passes. Variance number 4, height exception variance number 1. Any motions to approve?
Motion to approve height exception variance 1.
Motion by Mr. Davis. Do I hear a second? Okay, second by Ms. Marmelli. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, we have 1 nay. That variance passes. Variance number 5, the exception variance number 2. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Move to approve height exception variance 2.
Okay, moved by Mr. Davis. Do I hear a second? Was that Ms. Marmelli? Was that- Okay, Ms. Marmelli, second by Ms. Marmelli. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Okay, we have 1 nay by Mr. Nagler. That variance passes. Variance number 6, known as the height exception variance number 3. Do I hear any motions to approve? Okay, moved by Ms. Silverman. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Krennic. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, we have 1 nay. Mr. Nagler, that variance passes. Number 7, right? I almost lost you. Number 7. Number 7, known as the driveway variance. Do I hear any motions to approve?
Move to approve the driveway variance.
Okay, moved by Mr. Davis. Do I hear a second? Second by Mr. Silvers. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. Last variance, number 8, the maximum yard elevation variance. Do I hear any motions? Okay, moved by Ms. Marmelli. Do I hear a second? Second by Mr. Silvers. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, we've got 3 nays, so that variance does pass. Correct? Wait, no, you need 5/7. Okay, so number 8 does not pass.
No. Krennic, no.
That was number 8.
And
I just want to make sure, Mr. Baden. So-
We have 4 ayes and 3 nays, and we require 5 ayes to approve a variance.
Okay.
Is there any reason for?
Did you want to? Yeah, I mean, I'll open it for some discussion while you're there, Mr.
Yeah, it
Amster.
would be helpful to get some color on why we would not be able to move forward with that variance at this time.
I can comment on my
Okay,
vote if you
that's
want.
fine. Yes,
Is that-
go ahead.
Do we do that?
Go ahead, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's, from the answers to my question, there's no precedent for it. And I don't know if we've been provided sufficient grounds to set new precedent with a preemptive, which what I've been told has never existed before. He's welcome to come back and get it when he needs it.
Okay. I'm not sure what the other options are. The vote is what it is.
It is what it is, unless there's a motion to reconsider from the prevailing side.
If you,
And the prevailing side would be the nays.
The nays.
Yeah.
through the chair, or
Yes,
may
please.
we
Yes,
at least
you-
have some minor response?
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to explain that variance a little bit more. So currently, we're allowed to have our side yards at an elevation of 10. If we were to have the flood zone lowered, which is what's going to happen sometime this year, our yards would have to go down, which is less resilient, which the side yards would then be able not be able to retain as much water. It's really pushing down, it's anti-resiliency. So that's why we were coming forward with a preemptive variance. We may be able to get our permit in time before this would go into effect, but there's no, we don't know if this would go into effect the second we apply for a permit or if we receive a permit. So we're going to be kind of in a limbo pattern, and that might hold up our permit if we have to wait 45 days to 3 months to then go in for a variance. We wouldn't be able to pull our building permit. So, I mean, I think it's good for everybody for us to be able to build up a little bit higher on the side yards. I just want to make sure everybody understands, what that means.
Okay, I'll open up the board for discussion. Ms. Silverman, I think you have something.
I just have a question. Do you have you have no context as to why FEMA would be lowering the base elevation for this? I mean, just given everything that's going on in the world, it seems weird to me. I'm just curious.
They do modeling using LiDAR radar technology to get different elevations, and from what I've heard, I don't have specific sources, is that they believe that the bay in this area is shallower, and therefore there is not the same opportunity for the storm surges in this portion of the bay than was previously thought. That's the best I can say. I'm not sure why else. In most of the city, they're raising the number by maybe half a foot to a foot in much of the city. I'm not sure why this area is dropping and dropping so significantly.
Mr. Chair, I can.
Yep, Mr. Amster.
I don't know if it's just anecdotal, but many of the seawalls have been raised over the time since the prior modeling. The last FEMA maps are 2009, quite old data. So I believe that while that's a great thing, and in fact we talked about this in our resiliency, the seawall will be raised here by a couple of feet, but that doesn't mean that we don't want to just throw away resiliency as a city effort. The city's been raising streets, as you all are aware. I'm sure that these streets will be raised here on Star Island at some point, and that's all a factor from the city's planning, which, this is going to undercut what the city's been putting in for many years to raise and be more resilient. So we're just trying to capture that now. We're here before you for these variances right now. If we had to come back, our construction time frame would be we put in for building permit, in the middle of this year and get that permit issued by the end of the year. As you've heard, FEMA's maps may actually be adopted before then. If we don't have our building permit, we're going to an additional hardship of needing to come back before you when we are already here today. And the height also, just to Jennifer's point, if those entire, which are very significant, 70 feet, side setbacks and front and rear setbacks have to be much lower, the transitions on this, the home will still be and has to be where it is, right? The base flood elevation, while it is, so there's two things happening. The side yards are going to be negatively affected, but the first floor of the home, based on the code, in the city's code, would not be affected. So when FEMA's base flood elevation goes down, our home will still have to be at 12 feet NGVD, when the yards will then have to be decreased to about 7.5 feet. And so that is a 4.5 foot difference over, significant portions of this property will create terracing and berming and also, as Jennifer was saying, affect our stormwater retention. So because the house has to be at the same height and the code today allows for a more appropriate transition, which also helps the resiliency and sustainability of this project, having more fill feeds into our own stormwater drainage. These are numerous hardships that are in effect today because these maps exist. We know that in fact, they would have, there's been some, they're obviously contentious for lots of reasons, but this ties into the cities as well as the rest of the county's flood insurance program. So they've been delayed in being adopted, but the writing on the wall as it is appears to be that this is going to go into effect and negatively affect us. So that's all we're asking, is that you take into account that the city's code should prevail because it is the more resilient in this case. and we would hope that you may reconsider the variance and allow us to proceed as planned.
Yeah, I've got Mr. Larkin, do you have something? Because I had a comment question, but I'll go ahead and defer to you.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just one more comment in that, the code has an excellent vesting mechanism when it comes to if there's pending legislation, if you get an approval here, you're vested. But that doesn't protect you against FEMA regulations, which are a part more of the permitting process. But if you all approve this variance today, we're vested. We can go forward without having a delay in the future to come back to you all. What Jennifer was saying was accurate. Having the yards where we want them to be is actually better for our neighbors. We already are a model resiliency, and we're asking to not go down from that model, but give you all our best, best model of resiliency here.
Thank you. Yeah, this is really maybe for staff, Mr. Madden. I just want to make sure that I understand. The way I picture it, and staff is recommending approval of all the variances. Obviously, Mr. Griffin is making a significant investment in the city of Miami Beach, and they're trying to be proactive versus reactive. That's kind of how I read it. That's why I don't have a problem with it. But I want to piggyback on Mr. Nagler's question on have we ever done something on this done a preemptive a variance? Not, and you said no at this board, but I know you've served on other city boards. At all, have we had this in any of the other boards for any other variances that have been issued? This type of scenario, or that this is a one time?
I think this is a one-time, this is really the only regulation for zoning purposes that we rely on that comes from another agency, which is the base flood elevation. All of the other regulations of variances that we deal with are the city's own regulations, setbacks, heights, other architectural standards. Those are the city's regulations. We have control over those. Base flood elevation is really the only number that we take the number from another agency to guide us, and so I can't think of any other situation in the other boards that I've served on that we've done a.
So what is the, as a banker, we always look at what's the downside if I make a loan, we don't get paid back. What is the downsize of us approving this variance from a city standpoint, from their neighbors? Is there any downside by us approving this preemptive variance? Do you see anything?
I can't think of any. We generally would not. It's not. I don't think it's a negative precedent because it increases the resiliency of the home. And we have part of the criteria that we use is the resiliency criteria. That's part of the criteria that this board can take into account is the resiliency criteria. And so we're. I can't think of us ever recommending a similar type of variance in any other situation, except for in these islands where the base flood elevation is dropping, because for all other regulations, let's say there's a regulation that is going to be considered by the planning board next month. If the Board of Adjustment approves a variance today, that's it. They're locked in. The code is set for them. They don't have to worry about future city regulations impacting them. The city code provisions provide that they are grandfathered in the second the board approves a development order. In this case, it's a regulation that's outside of the city's control.
So then their only option, can you explain, I just want to make sure the board understands what this did not pass. What would their process be? I mean, we said they would have to come back before our board.
Correct.
So additional costs, additional time. Will that impact their ability once they get their parking permit to start doing what they need to be doing?
So let's say they could potentially get a building permit with the yard elevation at a lower height. They could start work on it and then request a modification and come back to the board and then modify their building permit plans at a later date would be an option for them. But that would affect their engineering and create a lot of cost for them.
Yeah. Mr. Davis?
I'm not trying to make it difficult for the applicant because it's an amazing project. My objection is all on procedural grounds. It has nothing to do with the merits of this. I believe that the resiliency of what has been proposed is better than what could be. But I'm not a flood guy. That's up to FEMA and people that are a lot smarter than me that will do this. But I'm trying to follow the law that's in front of us and to make a decision about something that under existing law. So can you tell me what's going to happen with the permit process for them? I mean, what would be the likely permit time? I'm just trying to understand this because if it does create unnecessary hardship, I'd be willing to make a motion to reconsider.
So our code provides that your maximum yard elevation is the base flood elevation. And that's what they are looking to go to the maximum elevation that they possibly can build for their yards, which is the base flood elevation. In this case, it's 10. If FEMA, let's say next month, FEMA reduces the base flood elevation to 7.5, they have their permits in progress. That number, they don't have their building permit issued, so that number gets dropped. They now have to reduce their yards in the setback areas for the purposes of permitting to 7.5 feet.
And it's your view that that's likely to happen before the permit will be issued?
From what I understand, yes.
And you believe it would create an unnecessary hardship for you?
Correct, sir.
Okay. I would move to reconsider.
All right. We have a motion to reconsider. Hang on, we have more discussion. Mr. Nagler, before we do that?
By the way, I love, I have a rain barrel myself. It's not it's not 4 retention tanks, but I have a rain barrel. It's modest. If we were holding this, when is this expected to change, this law? Because someone said this year, but like when this year? It's already March. We don't know.
But it's sometime this year.
Okay, and if we were holding this meeting, this application, like if it wasn't today, but it was in a few months from now and the law had already changed, they'd just be asking this as a variance and not a preemptive variance, right?
Correct.
Okay, so Mr. Madden, we have a motion to reconsider. Do we need to open up for a full board vote? Or
We would need a second, and then you would need a motion to reconsider to pass, and then you can take another
Okay, so
motion.
the second has to be from one of the nays, though, correct?
No.
No, it can be from either side?
Yes, it can be from anyone.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Davis to reconsider the vote on variance number 8. Do we have a second? Okay, great. We got a second by Ms. Silverman. And all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, one opposition. Okay, we're going to go ahead and reopen. We're going to reopen the vote for variance number 8. Can I ask Mr. Madden that you do a roll call this time, please?
Absolutely. Do we have a motion and a second to approve the variance?
We have a motion by Mr. Oh, did we do that?
We
Oh,
had a
didn't do that.
motion to motion.
Oh,
and
so
a
now I
second
need to do a new motion.
reconsider.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yep, yeah, we need a new.
I mean, yes, on the reconsider. I apologize.
Oh, you're arrested? Okay, so the reconsider is unanimous. Okay, so now we're going to open it up for any motions to approve variance number 8. Do we have a motion to approve variance 8 as presented? That is the maximum yard elevation variance. Okay, motion by Ms. Marmelli. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Davis. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
You said you're going to do a roll call.
Oh,
Oh, yep.
go back. Thank you. See, that's why you have a vice chair. He's got my back. Okay, you're under your, Mr. Mad, take a roll call, please.
We have a motion by Ms. Romelli, second by Mr. Davis for variance number 8, and so we'll do a roll call. Mr. Goldberg,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Krennick,
No.
Ms. Romelli. Mr. Nagler,
No.
Ms. Silverman,
Yes.
Mr. Silvers. So we have 5-2, the motion passes, the
5-10.
variance is approved.
Great.
Congratulations,
Thank you all very
and,
much.
you know, we really appreciate Mr. Griffin picking Miami Beach as his home and the investment and everything that he does, and congratulations. We're looking forward to seeing the finished product.
Great. Thank you
Okay?
so much,
Thank you,
everybody.
thank you for your presentation. Great job, guys. Appreciate it. Okay, we have no appeals, Mr. Madden. Other business, our next meeting is May 2nd.
May 2nd, yes.
May
There's
2nd,
there are no items
We
for
are
April.
going to have, we have a couple appeals that are going to.
Right now on the agenda, we have 3 appeals for the May 2nd agenda. We do expect that one of them will likely be settled beforehand, but we have to plan on it being there for the May 2nd meeting.
Okay, any other good and welfare or business board? Okay, thank you for your participation, and have a great day and a great weekend. Motion to close the meeting.
All right. You're
Move it.